Good morning. It's Tuesday morning here in Cypress, Texas. A little cold this morning. Got my sweater on, my hat. So I got up this morning and I'm reading my scriptures. And the the tone was different. I started off with Psalms 35, and then I went to Genesis and then Matthew 4. And throughout the whole time, the tone was really dark. You know, in Psalms, it's curses against those who are coming after David, and let them fall in the snares they set for him, and and all this stuff, and I'm like, this is like so apparent. It's where your mind is what you pick up on in the scriptures. And what's happened with me is lately is my mom and my stepdad. My stepdad's dying of cancer. My stepsisters, who I don't even know, scooped him right up from the hospital after they diagnosed him because they didn't want him to go through chemo. Not, they're causing him to die quicker than he would have. The type of cancer he had was, really responds well to chemo, and no chemo, no nothing for him, and he's miserable. And then she gets served with divorce papers, and they're trying to get her to pay spousal support to him. And and she looked up the law in Michigan. Interesting that if a woman owns property before she marries a man, he has no claim to that property. But if a man owns property before he marries a woman and they get divorced, then she's got claim to that property. Isn't that weird? It's like, that's kind of interesting. But so she just paid off her property too. And but it's all coming from the daughters and the wording of the all this. So my mom's under attack, and she calls me and tells me about it, right? And so in the scripture, so what I'm catching out of this is where your mind is. When you read the scriptures, your mind will, and this is why, because the Bible's been so edified for centuries that your mind is looking for answers. It's looking for God, the voice of God, to touch your life when you read it or when you hear it preached. There was one he's a priest named Mike Robinson. Guy's like 6'5", and he was kind of an entrepreneur. He helped expand the Marie Callender's restaurant chain into Oregon and Washington State. Before he had a degree, he had a bachelor's in psychology, and then he went to seminary in Rome. And it's like every time that guy read or gave a homily, it was like he was living in my back pocket. I'm like, how do you know what to say, right? And he's the one that I took to a Toastmasters meeting. He didn't know what Toastmasters was, right? And he talked about the word and how his job was to present the word, right? And the word was his own living, breathing entity. And people would take out of it, what they needed with where they were at in their life, right? And so it's very interesting that I'm seeing that exactly play out right now. Now, I know now that there's a different meaning, with the Hebrew pictorial language, the symbolic language. So these symbols, these corresponding symbols to the words, have their own meaning. They give them like a three-dimensional meaning to the word. And that's something. So there's even that to it that David understood. David and Solomon both understood this, right? Throughout, this is wild. So that was the language of God, that pictorial language, the three-dimensional language. All right. And man, this is amazing, right? And God wanted to be the source of everything that Adam needed. But Adam wanted something, so that's why he created Eve, right? And when Adam went into Eve, right, choosing other than God, and of course she got pregnant, right? And so that was sin. That was going away from God, and it produced fruit. It produced Cain. And then that's when God's like, all right, now you did it. All right. And so that sin of go away from God, followed man throughout forever. All children are born in sin. And that's it. Choosing, I'm going to catch it for this. It's going to what you need other than God, right? And that's the sin. Okay. So now that child comes up, got that's original sin. That's what it is. Choosing other than God for whatever we need. And that's it. All right. Have a great Tuesday.